Welcome to Sports Talk Weekly. I'm your host for tonight, Craig Kellerman. I'm sitting in for Chris Jester, and I am accompanied by Mike Paden.
Oh, it's shaking, everyone. I don't know anything about sports, but I'll try to talk to you for a bit.
Hey, that's all right. And Drew White.
Hola, amigos.
So what's going on, guys? What's going on, Drew? What's new?
What's new is the brackets and basketball and Time Cow, who does not like me still. You think Time Cow would leave me alone eventually and not bother me for the rest of my life? And I guarantee you Friday, it's going to be bothering me more. But, besides for Time Cow, everything's been pretty good.
That's good. All right. Mike, how you been with
Well, I'll tell you the little bit of foray I have into the sports world right now. I am happy to serve the Army Black Knights in all of their sports endeavors. Hey, that's not a nice thing to do for our Army. Do you hate America, Drew? Do you hate America? What's wrong with you? And I'm happy to report that the women clinched the Patriot League Championship and earned themselves a slot in the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament.
Well, that's good for them. You've been talking about that.
However, unfortunately, they are going to be facing the number 1 seed team. So
really?
It's not going to look good for them going much further than that.
That sucks. I was actually about to ask who they're going to play. So, are they playing Kentucky or not Kentucky, Connecticut?
I'm not sure exactly what team it is. I just know it's the number 1 seed team.
Oh, well, that's terrible. Maybe they could break the streak and become the first 16th seed.
Anything can happen, man. Miracle stories happen.
Yeah. So you get to watch a lot of games, or you just...
I usually have to work pretty hard through the first half of games, but then after the halftime rush, after we finish cleaning that out, we usually get to relax a little bit, and I usually get to watch games. I got to watch the conclusion of the finals. Man, it got dirty. These ladies were elbowing each other in the back of the heads. Like, these women were playing like street rules. They wanted to win. They were hungry. And you know what? You say what you want about women's basketball. These women fought hard, and they made themselves to the finals, which is a heck of a lot further than the men's basketball team did.
Yeah, definitely. And you said it's Army, right?
It was Army. Yes, they played. I believe it was Holy Cross in the finals.
Holy Cross. When you think of Army, you usually don't think of their sports teams because usually they, especially in Navy as well, they usually don't have like the best sports team. But it's always good to see at least one of our military services making it to any type of tournament at the end of their season.
You would think that they would because of their strict training and everything.
You would think so, but also most of the best people that go into college, they're not going to be, because usually when you go into one of the military colleges, you have to serve in the military afterwards. David Robinson is probably the only big name player who actually went to Navy and then served his time and then went and played basketball in the NBA.
Well, I can't speak for NBA, but I think you're forgetting a name. Roger Staubach also played for Navy. That's a pretty big name who went on. But you're correct. There's not many people go on, and for that very reason. I mean, when you're you're getting a lot of offers when you're a really awesome athlete and you're thinking about what you want to do with your life, you want to go pro. That's what you want to do, and you want to do it as soon as possible. And when you have to go through Army college, which first off is a really crummy life to have to go through. I mean, they have to live very, very strict rules. They're basically in the Army while they're in college. They don't get to party. They don't get to have a lot of the fun times most people do in college. And then after they graduate, they have to serve a number of years, which even, if you get signed afterwards, I believe we just had one of our baseball players got picked up by one of the baseball teams in Major League Baseball. He has to serve 2 years before he's able to actually go pro, which luckily he doesn't have to go and serve overseas. They worked out something where he's able to serve locally. He is going to be working on base as a coach for the team, which will be excellent, helping serve stars of the future and keeping him safe. So he will be able to go on and play pro. So they do work out things for people like that, but because of people not even being interested in signing up, they generally do have subpar teams. I mean, their football team, it's single A or triple A, whichever is the highest ranking college football. It's in there, but they always just do terrible. The only game people care about in Army football is when they fight Navy, and that's just because that's the only people who are on the level of them, and just because it's the rivalry.
Yeah, those games get pretty intense and pretty crazy. I mean, it's fun. It's good for them to do that too. And like Drew said, it's good to have our armed services have a sports team. There's something a little bit more lighthearted than go overseas and kill people.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, the cadets at the school are pretty much required to go to most of the sporting events. And they get so wildly behind the teams.
Yeah.
It's so awesome to see how passionate they get behind them, painting themselves. And basically the most passionate kind of fans that you would expect to see in any other city is the way these guys act for their teams backing them up.
Right. Yeah, so moving on to what we were talking about last week, we kind of jumped on to the NFL free agency, but it was at the very beginning, so we had about a week to catch up to everything is going on, and we got a little bit of a wrap up. So, Drew,
Yeah.
what were your picks, and what was your outlook for some of the free agents like Darrelle Revis going on to? What do you think about, like, for instance, Darrelle Revis going on to the Patriots?
Well, when I first heard that he was, they were talking about him being traded from the Buccaneers, I was a little surprised. But then after looking at some of his stats for the year, ever since that torn ACL he got when he played for the Jets, he's kind of been in and out when it comes to performing. So I'm not really surprised that the Buccaneers decided to get rid of him. But when I heard the Patriots picked him up, it's really interesting because the Patriots secondary, it has been lackluster and okay over the past few years. It hasn't been anything special. And if Revis is able to stay healthy and able to show that he wants to be there, Patriots have a very good defense on their side.
Oh, for sure, definitely. Yeah, I mean, but they also lost a player. They lost a couple of players, didn't they?
Yeah, they lost. I believe I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he went to the Broncos. I think it was like Ak or something like that. It's like AQIB, something like that. It's one of those names that it's Akb Talib. Like I said, I don't know how to spell it. He was a cornerback as well. So pretty much they replaced him with Revis, which Revis could be an upgrade if he plays to the fullest of his ability.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the free agents that are still up in the air, like Jimmy Graham.
Jimmy Graham.
Jimmy Graham. He's a franchise player, but he's still on a question mark.
Yeah, I believe what they have to do is, he's a restricted free agent still, and I believe if any team offers 2 first-round picks for them, they could pick him up, or it's something like that, right? It's something along those lines. So I think he's going to stay with the Saints. I don't think any team is going to be willing to trade for a tight end / wide receiver for 2 first-round picks, because usually the only teams that have done this, I mean, the Raiders did this with Carson Palmer,
right?
And I believe they've done sort of things like this to get QBs in the past, like the kid that I forget what his name is, but he used to play for Ohio State, and he's one of the Terrell Pryor is his name. They've done stuff like that in the past, but I don't really see a team jumping out to pick him up. I do think he'd be worth it if he goes to the right team, because he's one of the best producers receiving wide over the past couple of years, especially if you had him for fantasy sports. Especially well that he can get you mad points any day of the week. So
oh my god, I had to go up against him. My buddy had him as his tight end for most of the season, and he put up so many points. God damn, he's one of the best tight ends in the franchise, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been questioning whether or not he should be considered a tight end or a wide receiver at this point because of the production he's been getting. And honestly, he acts more like a wide receiver. And my bad. And when the Saints gave him the franchise tag, there was a question whether or not they'd put him down as a wide receiver or a tight end. I don't know what they eventually end up doing, but I think the issue is if he goes somewhere and wants to be a wide receiver, he's going to get that mad money, more that extra payday pretty much, and it's just matter if a team wants to pay him that much money to be a wide receiver.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, like, he's a high-profile player and he commands a lot of money. So that's the thing about a lot of these guys. It's like question mark, you know what I mean? Like, who's going to pay the millions for him? Whereas, like, some of the other guys that got picked up aren't exactly making the $6+ million average, Yeah. But there's also Alex Mack. He's in a transition stage too.
Mm-hmm.
Who else we got here? We got Henry Melton. That's Melton. He's a defensive for Chicago Bears right now.
Chicago Bears. Speaking of which, they just lost Julius Peppers to the Green Bay Packers, which I thought was interesting that he ended up leaving the Bears.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's interesting, Golden Tate going over to the Lions.
Yeah. Golden State really wasn't in that good of a situation in Seattle, mainly because Seattle has so many wide receivers, and now they just got Percy Harvin. And even though he's been injured for pretty much most of his career, when he played, he did well. When he played in the playoffs against the Saints, he went off and had a really good game despite being limited to how much he played. And I forget whether or not he played in the Super Bowl. Actually, correct that he did play in the Super Bowl. I do recall he had a pretty good game as well. So Percy Harvin, when he's not injured, he could be a pretty good player. Remember when he first came into the league, he was just concussion-ridden when he was a Viking. But, he is a guy that I think that can find himself to a good team and he could be good producing-wise, if so, and the same goes for Golden Tate.
Yeah, see, Golden Tate would be good on a team like the Giants or somebody who needs a wide receiver right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and honestly, I'm a little surprised that they the Seattle ended up getting rid of him, because they also cut Sidney Rice, I believe. So they're really limited in wide receivers right now.
Yeah. There's a lot of crazy transitions. This whole 2014 to 2015 season is going to be really interesting, to say the least.
So one thing I want to mention really quickly, what do you think of the Jets getting Eric Decker?
I think it's a really smart move for the Jets. They need a high-profile player. They need to put up some sort of numbers. The only thing about the Jets, like we were saying last week, is the media. The New York media tears people apart. I mean, if he doesn't produce, it could ruin his career.
Well, the one thing I actually questioned was, why did Eric Decker go to the Jets? They have shown that they're willing to pay people to get what they want in the past, kind of like most New York teams. They're willing to fork out that extra money because they're able to get extra things, and then they're some of the most popular teams in whatever sport that they play in. But the thing is, Eric Decker's going to a team that's not really a contending team. They haven't contended for the past few years, and they have QB issues with Geno Smith. Yeah. And also, I don't know if they still have Mark Sanchez as a backup.
Yeah, he's benched.
Yeah,
he'll be a secondary for sure.
Yeah, and maybe they thought that if they bring a good wide receiver in, then maybe these two are able to have good chemistry. But I think the Jets at this point are kind of like that poison pill where you don't want to go there, mainly because you don't know what's going to happen. It's a risk going there, and I'm more surprised that they brought in Eric Decker and not get rid of Rex Ryan, which I think they should have for the past couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the Jets. Oh man, the Jets. They got an interesting team lined up for this season. Again, Eric Decker, and then they re-signed Jeff Cumberland again as their tight end. He's decent. Yeah. He's definitely decent.
Well, I think he's a fresh talent, pretty much. He's just coming to get noticed. He's kind of like, I can't really think of someone off the top of my head I could compare him to. But, this is kind of like a transition year to see what the Jets can do. And I think this year has to be the year for the Jets to prove something and maybe make the playoffs. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of people gone going into next year's offseason.
Oh, for sure. I think it would be interesting, though, if somebody like Michael Vick decided to pick up like Michael Vick or something for their quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what they really need. They need a quarterback. They need a good quarterback.
I think Geno Smith really needs kind of like someone to like go at with to get that starting job, because some QBs, they need that extra push to make something in the NFL. And, not saying that Geno Smith doesn't have it, but last year a lot of people didn't think that there was many good QBs coming out of the NFL draft, and Geno Smith was one of some people thought that he'd be the first pick in the draft just because he had like that best upside. Instead, two QBs went ahead of him, and he dropped to the second round. And, it's just interesting to see what the Jets are going to be able to do with their QB situation, because it's not the best. And if they did bring Michael Vick in, Michael Vick is kind of like, some other people on the Jets, they're injury prone. And if can Michael Vick stay healthy, that's the thing. If any team picks him up, it's just whether or not Michael Vick can stay healthy. He did show when he played for the Eagles that he can produce when he's healthy, but he's rarely been healthy ever since he came back from his prison sentence.
Yeah. Speaking of prison sentences, let's talk about Colts owner arrested for drugs, Jim Irsay.
I thought that was when I heard about this, I was kind of like, what? No way. But, looking back on it, he's had issues in the past about this. And as a Colts fan, I was actually a little disappointed when I heard this because, Irsay has his demons. He hasn't been he's been a good owner, but just sometimes drugs and other stuff catch up to him. And I believe he's going into rehab sooner. They've put him in a situation where he's trying to get back and recollect himself as of right now. And I don't think they've brought any charges yet on him for possession
DUI,
of drugs or DUI, but it's being considered as we speak.
Do you know exactly what he was charged with, or it's all speculation at this point?
I believe he did, and when they arrested him, he had a lot of prescription drugs. I don't know if they were his or not, but he was also driving. He was driving under the influence, and he was going 10 miles per hour, which, there's no law saying in Indiana saying you can't go so slow, but if you are holding up traffic, then that's when you get pulled over. I don't know if that was the case.
Yeah, they said he stopped in the middle of the highway or some shit. And
yeah, I think that warrants maybe a cop following you and maybe pulling you over to talk to you. But, I know a lot of people around the NFL are going to be talking about whether or not he should be an owner, maybe he's a bad guy, which, that's not the case at all. I've met him personally just because my family has the ability to meet some of the people on the Colts, as a Colts franchise. And
nice.
When I talk to him, he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. He loves the team, he loves the city, and he'll do anything for him. But, it's just a matter of whether or not he could stay healthy at this point. And, we've had, Chuck Pagano, he had his chemotherapy when he had his issues, and now he's back with the team. I want to see Jim Irsay do the same. He needs to go away for a while, lay low, and come back and help this team do whatever it can to rebuild itself.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the game and stuff, really, what you do is your business. But something like that, like drug addiction, alcoholism, it can affect how he manages the team.
If this was in New York, this would be getting a lot more media, and it'll probably be blown way out of proportion. But
oh, for sure.
It is getting national coverage right now. But it's interesting that I thought that this happened. It was random, but hopefully Irsay is able to recollect himself, and I wish the best for him because he's a very nice guy, and I hope the best for him and his family.
Yeah, he actually tweeted a response to this, and he says, "Actually working. Sorry, naysayers. I don't drink. Haven't in over 15 years. I know when you're unhappy or jealous, it's easy to be mean-spirited."
It's at this point, if he's trying to lie his way, or maybe it wasn't a DUI. I think that was under speculation.
It could have been the drugs.
It could have been the drugs, to be honest with you. And he didn't mention anything about the drugs in that tweet. So it could, maybe the drugs part is true, maybe the alcohol part is lie. As soon as the rumor comes out, a lot of other extra added stuff, a little buffer is put into it as well. So hopefully that's not the case. I do hope for the best of him in the future, though.
Yeah, for sure. And if any of you guys want to weigh in on any of this, either the Jim Irsay or the NFL free agency, please call us at 713-955-0363. Operators are standing by.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on to a little bit of NBA news here. Let's talk about a little bit about Kobe Bryant.
The K-Man.
The K-Man. See, Kobe Bryant is a 35-year-old L.A. Laker player, and he's out for the season, which is a kind of a hit. I mean, I saw it kind of coming. I mean, he only played, a couple of games?
Yeah, he only played 2 games. Yeah, he broke his – I think he broke his kneecap, didn't he? Was that what the second injury that took him out?
Yeah.
Broken kneecap, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard injury to come back from, especially in a sport like, basketball. I mean, you're running all the time, Yeah,
at this point, it doesn't really matter if Kobe came back or not. The team has an abysmal record, especially for the Lakers. I believe they're 22-44 as of right now. And they're pretty much tanking, which is kind of like, for Paden, I don't know if you know this, but tanking's kind of like not playing to your fullest so you could get good picks in the offseason. It's become a trend in the NBA over the past few years. And they
learned something.
You learned something from Drew. Who would have thought I would have taught you something? Who would have thought? And anyways, and D'Antoni also mentioned that Steve Nash isn't going to play at all this year as well. And Kobe doesn't need to come back until he's 100%. There's no point for him to coming back this season. And this might be one of the only smart things that the Lakers franchise has done over the past few seasons.
Right. The thing about Kobe Bryant is he is getting kind of older, and I don't know if he'll ever be as good as he used to be, even if he does come back for the next season.
I think he can be able to recollect himself. I mean, he's being paid $24 million a year after this year. I don't think
actually, 30.4 million.
Oh man, that's even more. So it's kind of like he needs to play to his fullest ability because the Lakers still have their amnesty clause, which allows them to get rid of any player they want to, and they don't have to pay the cost for it. So they could, if he doesn't play to his ability, they could always just get rid of him. I've been a fan of them getting rid of Kobe for a while now. I think they need to rebuild, kind of like what the Knicks are doing with Phil Jackson now. I think the Lakers need to take that and do that with the Lakers. They need to get rid of him, and I believe they're not going to get Paul Gasol back. I think his contract's up this year, and they're going to just bounce him and get him out of the Lakers franchise. But Kobe doesn't need to come back. The team sucks. If he came back, he'd have to do that whole he's a bit cold, he has to get the dust off his shoulders, he needs to get back in the end game, and he wouldn't help them at all. He'd probably help them. The only thing he'd help them with is doing bad and getting worse. So I pretty much at this point that's the only thing I could see him doing for the Lakers this season.
But I think Kobe Bryant, if they got rid of Kobe Bryant, that would be a huge hit too. Especially he started the NBA straight out of high school, and he's been playing on the Lakers ever since.
I do understand that, but the Lakers fans need to realize that you can't just live in the past kind of like this. Kobe is 35. He's not going to be able to produce like he did when he won his 5 championships. They need to realize he is not the MVP player he once was, and they need to rebuild. They're going to have a good pick this coming draft, maybe get a top 5 pick and maybe get a good guy out of it. So to me, the Lakers just need to rebuild, and they need to cut their ties with Kobe before, because because Kobe's contract is so big that they could barely sign another superstar to a contract without him taking a hit to how much money that superstar would make. The Lakers are virtually screwed when it comes to picking up free agents for the most part. So I just don't understand why they don't try to get rid of him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess, like I was saying, maybe he has some tenure.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Mike, do you want to weigh in on any of this, or?
I mean, it's always sad to come to the end of an era of a player that people may be really attached to. I'm more of a baseball guy, so players' careers tend to be a lot longer there. Basketball, I'm pretty sure people have significantly shorter because it's a lot easier to get an injury that's going to take you down. You need to be able to move fast and all that. Someone like Shaq continued playing years and years afterwards where he was really slow. And, he was still doing pretty good, but he probably could have retired a few years sooner and retained a little bit more of his legacy. But to bring this into something else I have a lot of interest to, professional wrestling. People consistently stay way too much longer than they need to. I mean, you look at a fellow like Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair. These guys, they're hitting their 60s, 70s. They're old men with leathery skin trying to take it off and go in there and do the things that the 20-year-olds are doing.
Well, that's hot.
Just destroying their body.
Absolutely. So, I think if Kobe wants to take this as a sign to move on, maybe he can continue giving back to basketball and other means if he wants to go in coaching or whatever, or maybe just find another career in life. I mean, he's still young enough to go down another path and do something. So, best of luck in his future endeavors.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. Kobe, he definitely did some work with the NBA. He was one of the best basketball players that they've seen. So we'll see what the future holds for him. And I guess we'll move into other news. Phil Jackson, actually, Drew, you brought this up, and I had just looked this up myself, and I guess he's become the new team president for the Knicks, correct?
Yes, that's his new role with the Knicks.
Nice.
The Knicks, when they first contacted him, they wanted him to be the head coach, but, he doesn't want to coach anymore. He wants to be in that executive role, and I guess he's getting paid $12 million just to tell things what to do. If anyone is the most paid person in the NBA, it's Phil Jackson. He gets paid way too much for what he does.
Well, how much does he get paid?
He gets paid $12 million for being an executive, which, that doesn't seem that much compared to Kobe Bryant, but Kobe Bryant is a player in the NBA. Right. Most presidents only make about a couple million a year. And the only reason that's not that much. But Phil Jackson, the only reason why Phil Jackson gets paid that much is because he has his Armada kind of as the best coach of all time, which I am totally against him. When people say he's the best coach of all time, for the sole purpose that he had the best player of their respective eras the 2 times when he was a coach when they won titles, which is Michael Jordan, and he had Kobe Bryant and Shaq, and Scottie Pippen as well when he was a Bull. So
really, he's been around.
He's been around, and when I heard that the Knicks were going to do this, I was really hesitant because, one, Phil Jackson's never done this before, and 2, I think he's one of the most overrated coaches, players, and just of all time. He's always at the best players wherever he went. So it's really hard to say that he built a team up and won a championship with. I think that's complete stupid that people consider him the best when there's other people who probably deserve that criteria, like Greg Popovich more than him.
Right. So do you think that that he will do good things for the Knicks, or do you think that do you think that it'll motivate them to be a better team? He talked a lot about Carmelo Anthony.
Yes.
He wants to work a lot with him. So
yeah. When people think of Phil Jackson when he was a coach, especially, people wanted to play for Phil Jackson just for the sole purpose of it's Phil Jackson. He's the quote unquote best, which I disagree with. But Phil Jackson, he's a legend. People are going to want to go to him to be with him, and he's already mentioned that he wants Carmelo Anthony in his future plans. And Melo said he would do whatever it takes to do with Phil Jackson for them to collaborate and make this work out. So if Carmelo Anthony, I think he's already shown that since he's already working with Phil Jackson, he wants to be there. Phil Jackson has that presence. It's kind of like with Paden mentioned it with Hulk Hogan. When he goes places, people know who Hulk Hogan is. Phil Jackson is like the Hulk Hogan of coaching. So that's a weird comparison to make, but it makes sense.
I heard somewhere I don't know if this is true or not, Mike, but is Hulk Hogan coming back to the WWE?
Yes, he is back in the WWE right now. He's appearances. He's the host of the WrestleMania coming up, and he's been doing a lot of work with.
Is he hosting? You're saying he's hosting, or is he wrestling?
He's hosting. There's no news about him wrestling, but don't be surprised if he ends up wrestling a match.
Oh man, that would be kind of sad. I don't know.
That's a topic we don't need to discuss.
I'm all for discussing it because, I remember watching him when I was a little kid, back in the late '80s, and geez, man, now I'm almost 30, and seeing him still working in that field is a little crazy to me. So
I think he doesn't do as much as he has in the past.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
But yeah, when it comes to Phil Jackson, it's it's a bit of a risk because he's never done it before. So it's a new thing to him. He might, to be honest with you, I think Phil Jackson will figure out how to do it, and also it's going to be a lot easier for him because he's with the Knicks. They're willing to pay a lot of money to do stuff, and also people are going to want to go there because it's Phil Jackson. Who doesn't want to play for Phil Jackson? So to me, it could work, but these next 2 seasons. It's going to be interesting because they don't really have the cap space to go after anyone this offseason. But the next one is when that's when we're really going to see how good Phil Jackson is of president and team owner, because he's pretty much making all the basketball decisions now. So anyone they pick up, anyone in the front office he wants to get rid of, all the coaches, all of that's his job, and he chooses who does what.
Right. So you think the Knicks are up for a playoffs spot or no?
This year They can because they're in the East, the crappy East, where I believe as of right now they're only a couple games out of the final spot, which is the 8th seed. But it doesn't really matter because at this point they're just really, really in a bad hole with injuries, and if they do make it, good for them. But they're not going to make it out of the first round.
Nah, definitely not. That's sad. The whole East is a mess, like you said, and the West is just dominating.
It's been like that for a while. It's been like that since the Michael Jordan era. Thankfully I'm a Pacers fan, and I don't have to deal with the East sucks thing right now because we're the best team in the East, but. It hasn't always been like that, but it's always a nice feeling that even when you're in a crappy conference, you're still at top and you have the best record in the NBA.
Yeah, it's not that. I guess it's all right.
Yeah, of course. It's all right.
It's good to be a fan of a team that's awesome.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so it is March fucking Madness, and for the NCAA, we have a tournament bracket for coming up. So, Drew, you wanna fill us in on what the fuck is going on here?
Well, then, for the college basketball for men and women's, they usually have the big tournament, which is called the NCAA March Madness Tournament. And pretty much it's a 64-team single elimination bracket, and whoever wins out wins the thing. And the way that they seed it into 4 different regions around the United States, and there's 16 seeds. So, and it works like if you're a 1 seed, you're going to play a 16 seed. And if you're a 5 seed, 12 seed, it's really hard to explain when you get down to it. But pretty much the lower the seed, so the closer to 1, the better chance you have of making it further because you're obviously the better team.
Right.
So the question this year, since there's not that one dominant team like there has been for quite some time, the last dominant team that I could really think of was 2 years ago when Kentucky had Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, and those guys, and they weren't even that great of a team. They were just better than most of the other teams.
Right.
So it's been a while since there's been that one dominant team, but right now the top seed is Florida University, the Gators.
Albany. Yeah.
And they play Albany, who won a match earlier today. And, pretty much what you have to do is, since a 16th seed has never won in the first round, you can just automatically count them out.
Really?
Yep, that's a fun fact. They've never won. Last year, it almost happened because one of the 1 seeds shouldn't have been a 1 seed. They were very weak. They almost lost, but they ended up winning in overtime. They ended up losing in the next round to Wichita State. But this bracket or this tournament this year is going to be interesting for the sole purpose that it's going to be like the past couple of years where it's going to be unpredictable. There's not that one team that stands out. It's an even playing field. And, and there's a good chance for a Cinderella story to come out like Wichita State did with the 8th seed last year.
All right, so what's your pick? You think Florida's going to beat Albany or Albany's going to beat Florida?
I'm going to be just for the sole purpose. Florida's going to win.
Okay.
Florida, like I said, it's a 16th seed has never won.
Yeah.
So, you can automatically throw them out. Whenever
knock them out.
Yeah, knock them out. Until a 16th seed wins, you don't need to worry about it and pick them. There's always that idiot who will pick a 16th seed just to be like, oh, man, it's going to happen this year. and when it doesn't happen and that team ends up winning it, they look like an idiot.
That would be so funny if they beat Florida and then, they would just set a record.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be cool to watch, man.
Oh, yeah. Last year it was interesting because there was a 15th seed, which is the second lowest. They made it to the Sweet 16. That was the first time a team like that made it that far. So, it is possible for these lower seeds to make it far into the tournament. It's just really difficult because they will automatically, they have to go against the toughest teams. Like, for example, if a 16th seed did win, so let's see.
We got Weber Street versus Arizona.
Yeah, so let's say Weber ended up winning the first round. They have to play either Gonzaga or Oklahoma State, and that's an 8th or a 9th seed, And I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Those two teams should be ranked higher. Oklahoma State, the only reason why they're ranked 9th is because their best player got suspended for pushing a fan at a Texas Tech game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the only reason why they dropped, because they lost some games after he went out.
Mm.
So when you look more at this bracket, especially with the number 1 seeds, usually not all 4 1 seeds make it, and sometimes none of the 1 seeds make it. This year, it would not surprise me if none of the 1 seeds made it, because Florida, they're not that good offensively. They're a good defensive team, but, some of the teams in the bottom portion of their region, like Kansas and Syracuse and Ohio State, they're able to score. So that's the issue with Florida. Kansas, the 2 seed in that region, they're playing without their best player right now. So it's a question whether or not they're going to be able to make it out of that first weekend, which I do believe they can, because they have the top 2 prospects coming up in this upcoming draft with Andrew Wiggins and Joel Embiid. I don't know how to pronounce Embiid's name, but I believe that's how you pronounce it, at least. And, if you have at least one of the 2 best players, you can provide that guy's back. And Andrew Wiggins has been averaging about 40 points for the past few games. So, they're riding his back a lot right now. So it would not surprise me if, honestly, in that region, if it comes down to Florida and Kansas to go into the Final Four. And then if you move down, Virginia would not surprise me if they get knocked out early. They're 1 seed in the East region. Honestly, at this point, I don't know who will make it out of that region, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's either the 4 seed Michigan State.
Yeah, I was going to say Michigan State or Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina or Indiana, or not Indiana, my bad. Iowa State. Yeah. And the reason why I say Iowa State, they are 8-2 against top-ranked teams this year, top 25 teams, which is an incredibly impressive record. I believe they beat Kansas, they beat Oklahoma State when they were ranked. They've beaten a lot of good teams this year. So it wouldn't surprise me if this is the year they make it far into the tournament. And honestly, to me, it's going to come down to them and Michigan State to make it to the Final Four. And Michigan State has been usually the teams who end up winning the tournament, they are usually hot going into the tournament. And right. Michigan State has been doing really well as of recently. Their only loss in the past few games that came into the Big East Championship, the Big Ten Finals, Conference Finals, when they lost to Michigan, who was a 2 seed in a different region. But, I believe Michigan State will be able to just take that, scratch that off their shoulder, get some of that dust off, and continue well into the tournament. So, honestly, I think Michigan State will make it out of that region. And, the big story about this tournament is Wichita State. And if you don't know much about them, they are the only undefeated team left in the NCAA. And the issue and the big thing with them is they play in a really small conference. They play in the Missouri Valley Conference, which is where Indiana State is, which is where I'm going to school this coming fall. So, there's not really good competition. They haven't played a top 25 team this year, but they are a 1 seed. So the question is, are they going to be able to compete with some of the better teams? Which I think they can, but if you're going to pick a 1 seed to not do well, it would be them automatically because they are not used to this type of competition. They also have to go up against Louisville if they make it to the Sweet 16. And Louisville is just doing amazing right now. I believe it's either them or Michigan is going to make it out of their region. And, it's going to be a crazy year because I think there's going to be a lot of upsets and there's going to be a lot of brackets that will be busted, if you know what I mean. But one thing I do want to mention before we continue this, have you guys heard of the $1 billion bracket challenge?
No, please explain.
It's some guy. It's on Yahoo. Some guy in Quicken Loans. They're offering $1 billion, and pretty much you have to. Only a few million people can do it, but they're offering $1 million to whoever can get a perfect bracket, which pretty much means you have to predict all the games, who's going to win each game. So pretty much you have to get every game right. And if you get every game right, you get $1 billion. But
$1 billion or $1 million?
Billion.
Oh, actually, Jesus.
Yeah, so pretty much. So yeah, that's a lot of moolah, a lot of money. But the thing is, some guy at Sports Center or ESPN, he did the math, and I believe to get a perfect bracket, that's a 1 in 9 billion chance of that happening. So the odds are very small, but
yeah, probably nobody will win that.
But me and my family, we entered a bracket because it's $1 billion. It's kind of like playing the lottery. You're most likely not going to win, but why not? There's always a chance that something could happen.
So, Drew, if you win, you donate a little bit of money to Mega Powers Radio.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Paden. So, I might, if I was to win $1 billion, I'd probably not go to college. I'd probably just live my life, do some fun things. Maybe I'd donate some money to Mike Paden. I don't know. Time Cow might have to forgive me a little, but maybe get a few dollars to Time Cow.
I think you need to forgive Time Cow. That's the problem.
Me and Time Cow, listen, we're cool. Time Cow, listen, we could be cool whenever you decide to not moo me whenever I'm giving intellectual thoughts to the people. I'm like Damien Sandow, I give smart talks. Yes, I agree with you as well. Thank you, Time Cow. So this is going to be a great tournament. A lot of upsets, which I'm a type of guy. I always root for the Cinderella teams because there's nothing better than having one of these small schools make a deep run into it, and you always want to see one of those type of schools win.
Oh, sure.
So just going around, who do you have winning it this year?
Winning? I don't know. I'm gonna give it to the East, and I'm gonna say Iowa State, just because.
Iowa State.
Yeah, because I like the Eastern Coast. I come from there, and they look like either that or Virginia.
Yeah,
Virginia's looking nice.
A fun fact. That's Week 16 in the Elite Eight. The city they play in is in New York. So if you're interested in going and watch one of those teams play, you could always go to the Big Apple and watch some of those games.
I think I might.
Yeah,
if you could get a ticket.
Yeah, honestly, tickets to like those games are not as expensive as what you think. I went to one of the Final Fours when they were in Indianapolis, and tickets, they're expensive. I'll give it that, but they're not like Super Bowl, World Series, NBA Finals.
Yeah. It's college.
Also, it's college for one, and two. Another thing that you got to mention, they played those games in football stadiums, so there's going to be, it could hold like 70,000 people because they're going to fill up the field as well with people. So it's going to be a huge. You can always find seats you're taking. They might not be the best seats, but honestly, being able to experience one of those games, they're amazing. I honestly, if you're ever able to make it to one of those Final Fours, you got to go to it. They are fun to watch.
I think I would want to. Mike, would you come with me to one of those, or?
If it was local, I'm not gonna trek halfway across the country to go to one of those games.
No, I mean the one in New York City. There's one going on in New York City soon.
Who's playing?
It's it's the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 matchup, pretty much.
Oh, so it's just basically they booked one of the games in the building, and whoever makes it to that spot will go there. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe how much tickets are. Where is it, in Brooklyn?
I do not know. It says New York, so I'm assuming it's going to be maybe in Brooklyn, maybe in.
Maybe it's that new arena they just built for the Nets. They're trying to get a lot of use out of that.
Probably,
arena.
Yeah.
Was it the Izod Center or is that the Barclays Center?
Izod Center is in New Jersey.
Yeah, so that'd
Barclays,
be
that's it.
Barclays. Yeah. Okay. Cool beans.
Yep.
He said, "Yep."
I think you're trying to ask me before who I think is going to win. I have no freaking clue. I don't really follow basketball, as I said, let alone college basketball, though I really think it is awesome that an event like this exists to make people excited for, I guess you can't call it the minor leagues, but the secondary leagues compared to what there is in the majors. Almost more so than the majors. Like I constantly hear people talking more about what's going on during March Madness than they do during the actual NBA finals.
Oh yeah, because honestly, a lot of people don't really like the NBA because it's pretty much just washed down. Pretty much, it's the same stuff every year. Mm-hmm. And with college, I guess.
Hungrier.
Yeah, I guess people are hungrier. That, and also, I guess it's a lot easier to get behind a college that you probably went to or a college you like instead of like a professional team.
How many teams are there in the NBA?
30.
30. So there's 30 teams in the NBA. There's 64 teams competing in this tournament alone, not to mention all those teams had to beat however many other teams just to make it into the tournament.
Exactly.
So I think that's why. I think they're fighting that much harder to make themselves stand out when they have that much bigger of a pool.
Yeah. And honestly, this is probably my favorite time of the year, pretty much. This and the Super Bowl and WrestleMania coming up. This is probably my favorite time, mainly just for the sole purpose that so much is going on, and this is one of the most unpredictable things in the world. So it's always fun to watch. I've always had people come over to my house and watch this stuff. So I'm really looking forward to this coming few weeks to watch this tournament play out.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting as hell. And if you're a basketball fan, it's definitely something to pay attention to. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to see what happens. It's what the cool thing about the NCAA is that it changes up every couple of years. So you never know. You never know what's going to happen in these seasons. So,
do you guys participate in pools?
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, I'm participating in the $1 billion bracket that's set up on Yahoo. I don't know if you guys.
I mean more like friendly pools, like office pools or something.
Yeah,
I go swimming.
So me and my friends have one set up right now. Me and my stepdad usually partake in one of his friends' tournaments as well. Some kid at my school is holding one where you just put in $5. You fill out a bracket and he'll keep track of it. And honestly, I believe there's about, as of right now, from what he told me, there's like about 50 people who have filled out a bracket and turned in money. So, 50 times 5, that would be what, about $250? Yeah, it'd be $250. I mean, $250 is not bad,
No.
So it's worth the pick. You might not win, but hey, that's always a risk that you should be willing to take. I mean, are you willing to put $5 down for the possible $250 outcome? I think it's worth it because
how do you figure out who even wins? I mean, is there a certain amount of points you get depending on how many teams you get right and how far they made it? Is that just how it is? Like, if you got 3 teams in the Final Four right, you get 150 points. If you get 2 teams, you only get 100 points.
Okay, so the way most websites do it is pretty much the farther you get, pretty much for the first round, it's worth 1 point. And if you get a team right, you pick them and move on to the next round, you get that point. But if you get that wrong, you don't get the point. So you don't really get negative points. You just don't get points. Mm-hmm. So the next round, which would be the second round, you get 2 points. The next round after that, they double it, and they keep on doubling it until you get to the final game. And pretty much, if you get at least 1 or 2 teams right into the Final Four, you should have at least a decent shot at winning a pool. But the issue is you just got to be able. The issue with these things, they're really unpredictable, so you always have to try to predict that one upset that no one else is going to be able to predict, which sometimes that can be difficult.
It's usually luck, I bet.
Yeah, usually it's luck. Usually one that I pick Harvard just for the sole fact that they're smart and they should be able to figure out how to win. That should be a safe pick. But this year they're a 12th seed and they're playing Cincinnati. So I don't know if I'd pick that one because Cincinnati is a really good team, but that's something that you should consider. But usually, you just pretty much tally points as the farther you go on, and if there's a tie after the championship game, usually tiebreakers are set by you pick what the score of the championship game would be, and if the closer to that usually wins all the money.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I go in on I play a lot of fantasy football every year, and I'll put. We have a league that is $200 to get into, right? Ooh. Yeah. So everybody, it's cool though, and it's a lot of fun. To me, fantasy sports is the best way to gamble.
Oh, yeah, especially with the internet. I think one of my AP European history teacher was telling me about it today, that back in the day, before they had this thing called the internet, I don't know if you heard that thing, but that the way they kept track, they have to keep track by paper, and and just that
radio.
Radio. That just sounded terrible, and I'm just so thankful I live in an era that everything is right here on my laptop. So
thank goodness we don't live in an era where people listen to radio anymore.
Yeah, thanks God. Well, it's not really that. It's more of the whole you have to write stuff down. You have to keep track yourself. It's a lot easier with the computer. Maybe I don't know. Maybe people are just getting more lazy as time goes on. But it's a benefit that I'm willing to take advantage of.
It's much better for keeping track of records. You're absolutely right. I was watching this huge baseball documentary a few weeks back, and it talks about how some of the greatest ball players that existed before the 1920s, we don't know what their stats were like, so we can't really compare a player like Honus Wagner to a lot of the modern players. He may be far better than a lot of them, but we'll never know because we don't have all of his stats written down.
That's a good point.
Yeah. How hard would it have been to have a fantasy baseball team back in the 1940s?
Oh my gosh, I probably would have been impossible.
Oh man, I forget what year. I think fantasy baseball was the first actual fantasy league out of all of them. Yeah, and I play all fantasy basketball, baseball, and football, but fantasy baseball is the worst one to me, mainly because you have to keep track of it every single day.
Yeah, that double headers.
Yeah.
What do they play? 180 games in a season?
152.
Regular? Oh, yeah.
It's still a lot. Listen, it's still a lot. I'm not going to say it's not. 162 games is still a lot. And I remember when I was younger, I was like, oh, man, I want to be a baseball player. It'd be so awesome. And then when I realized that they play 162 games every year, and I was kind of like, huh, fuck that. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. Yeah, that's work. No, too much. No, I have respect for the guys who do that, but man, I could not for be an outfielder or be that catcher who has all that gear on, and in Arizona where it's 110 degrees every day. I could not do that. That sounds terrible. And as much as I like playing baseball, I could not do that.
Well, they get paid right, so
they get paid. I don't know, maybe the money's worth it. Money says a lot. So if I got paid that much, I could probably do it.
But gotta like doing it, and you got to consider it's not as strenuous as some other sports.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a good point. You just hit a ball, you run to a base.
Maybe I shouldn't say strenuous, but there's not as much damage to the body.
Yeah.
There's not as much contact. I mean, you could certainly get beat up. Unless
you're a pitcher.
Well, that's why pitchers get days off.
Yeah. Pitchers, it's just that, you don't fatigue as easily because you pretty much you stay in a position for a few seconds and then you move, you stop, and then you move again, you stop. So there's not that much wear and tear on the body. You're not doing too much at one time. It's just over time. Like if you play like an 18-inning game, like some games sometimes go to, that
you can get hurt. I mean, if you
can get hurt,
bad slide, or of course we just had this whole controversy with the banning of the home plate collisions, which was probably the most heaviest contact you had throughout the entire game. But still, even if say you're an outfielder running to catch the ball and you slam into the wall, there's situations where you can get hurt. But the season also is structured in a way where those kinds of players can take off for a week, and you usually have a team of people to cover them.
Yeah, usually have, especially since they have like all the farming systems, you have like AAA, AA, single A, and you have all these leagues that people play in. And especially, you can always call people up to fill a spot if someone gets injured. You might miss that player for a while, but most of these AAA guys can play in the MLB. They're just not getting the opportunities to.
Right. Yeah.
Why is that? Is it the senior players holding on, wanting to keep making money further past their prime?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes it's like that. There's just sometimes talent does not get recognized. That could be the issue. An MLB roster can only have 25 players on it, so sometimes you can't call up someone because you have no one to really switch
is there
out.
Not enough teams.
Not really that. Usually the way MLB, I believe the way that they set it up was, there's 30 teams. And then they have like all these minor leagues pretty much set up. So you work your way up.
Yeah, every team has like 6 or 7 teams underneath them farming talent. Does any other sport have a system like that?
No.
Every other team probably has maybe 1, 2, at most 3 teams underneath them?
Yeah.
Well, you got to think about like football and basketball have a big college following. So a lot of those guys get recruited, and that's what they look at the most, I think.
Yeah, and for baseball, there are some people who go to college and play it out. Some guy who went to school where I went to school at, he's a pitcher for the Minnesota Twins now, and he went through college for 4 years, I believe 2 years, and now he's playing in the MLB. But the way most people do it is just some people just go straight out of high school into the farming system. And something that I want to mention is that if you ever look at the MLB draft, that draft, I think they have like 90 picks sometimes. They go on for a while.
Yeah,
like
it's a big deal.
And, it's a good thing sometimes because I believe one of the better MLB players nowadays, Albert Pujols, I believe he was taken like the 30th round. Just imagine sitting at a TV for 30 rounds. Actually, I don't even think they do that. I don't think they would go that far. But just imagine like
they probably get tweets
for 30 rounds waiting to be picked. That just sounds terrible. But I guess it's worth it to some people. So good for them. But just the idea of just like this farming system and how big and complex it is. They could not do that with any other sport. I feel like they do it perfectly with baseball, and I'm my bad. I'm really glad that they do it.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's a show, guys. Bada bum. So. So, Drew Wright, you have anything you want to plug on tonight's?
Ooh, I don't know. Nah, I'm all good. It's all good in the hood, Hashtag Drew Crew. I think everyone knows that by now who listens to me do anything. That and this show has been hashtag Drew White Verified, and I'm really glad I made it. Okay, don't laugh. Let me finish. And I'm really glad I was able to make it on today. It's the first time I was on. I really enjoyed doing it. Shut up. Leave me alone. Like, seriously. So, I'm really glad that I was able to make it on today. And, hopefully I'm able to do this in the future.
Oh, definitely, man. Always on the show. We're always doing it. Usually on Saturday nights, but lately we've been doing it on Tuesday. I don't know how many Tuesdays we're going to be on.
I believe it's one more week, and then it returns to Saturdays. All
right. So there you go. The official Mike Paden.
So it is written. So it shall be done.
All right, Mike. What do you have to plug tonight?
Just everyone, please stay tuned to all the awesome things we got going on here at Mega Powers Radio. Cool shows going on almost every single night, and lots of new stuff in the works. Big things popping, little things stopping. Nerd Court is in the works, which is one of them. I don't want to diverge too much information about that, other than it will be a place where all the major debates in the nerd world will be settled. So if you have a giant problem, such as I don't know. I can't. I feel like if I go into any examples, I'm going to waste and spoil it. So I don't want to go into that yet. But what we also have coming up is the For Real Movie Club, which, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and play a short little commercial we have on our soundboard for that.
Hey, Dace Tattoo Nation, it is I, Chris, the Dace Man Dace, host of the Dace Man Show, checking in with you guys to let you know of a new podcast debuting April 13th called For Real Movie Club here on Mega Powers Radio. Join me for the month of April as I moderate a panel of 4 movie buffs as we discuss Mel Brooks films. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, that's April 13th. Tune your radios to Mega Powers Radio, and ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
So yes, stay tuned to that. Everything else, www.megapowersradio.com. Thank you to these two gentlemen for carrying the show on tonight. Excellent addition to Sports Talk Weekly. Everyone have an awesome night.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And make sure you catch us on iTunes. You could follow us there. In fact, if you go on iTunes, you can subscribe to us, and you'll get our episodes downloaded automatically. So it's kind of cool. If you can't catch us live, definitely check us out there. Definitely like us on Facebook. We're on Facebook. We're also on YouTube and Stitcher Radio. So yeah, and if you do decide to catch us live, please call in and give us your opinions on whatever we're talking about. And the number is 713-955-0363. And thank you for listening tonight. And that's our show. Thank you. Have a good night.
Hey, Dace Tattoo Nation, it is I, Chris, the Dace Man Dace, host of the Dace Man Show, checking in with you guys to let you know of a new podcast debuting April 13th called For Real Movie Club here on Mega Powers Radio. Join me for the month of April as I moderate a panel of 4 movie buffs as we discuss Mel Brooks films. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, that's April 13th. Tune your radios to Mega Powers Radio, and ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.